Hi everyone, JJIR here, and today we're going to see an overview of Hangouts Chat. Now remember, Hangouts Chat's not available yet for personal Gmail accounts, it's only for G Suite accounts, but Google has mentioned that hopefully by the end of the year that the old Hangouts Chat will be taken away and the new Hangouts Chat will be used also for personal accounts. So just to clarify that for G Suite users, when you go up to the waffle here or the app launcher, and we go here, and as you can see, the Hangouts chat, the new one, has an @ symbol inside of the icon, whereas if you go to the old one, it has quotation marks here. So this Hangouts chat is connected to this guy here. This is what's going to disappear, and what's going to happen is, as you can see here, we have apps to the side, and the new Hangouts chat is going to come out here, and you're going to open it up as if you opened up anything else here on the side that we have here now for the applications. So just keep that in mind for the ones who are using the old Hangouts, that it will disappear within a year. So what we want to do now is start getting to know the new Hangouts chats. Just keep in mind this is also very new, and then most likely Google's going to make various changes to it as we go along. So I will probably have to redo this video around August to add the new options that Google will be adding during the year. So anyhow, we just go back here, we just click on chat, and that's going to open up this guy here. But when you are using it for the first time, we're going to see the process. So first you're going to go here, pretending this was an account that is going to just start using it. They're going to click on Hangouts Chat here. It's going to open up and it's going to ask them to go through a process. This process here, we're going to click on next, and then next again, and then getting started. And then usually it will say activate notifications, things like that. You're going to click on a blue button, that will come out. And then sometimes the other thing that comes out here will be coming up here, say as to permit those things. So right now it didn't come up, but just keep in mind that there will be another button here normally to activate notifications. Good. So now that we're here, let's get rid of this guy. Going back to the other one here, which is the main account. So here on the left side is where you're going to find almost all of the stuff that you're going to need, which are the list of rooms, group messages, and DMs, direct messages. Google calls those DMs. And then above here we have the notification area that we're going to see, and then onto the side here we have settings and things like that. So we're going to see a bunch of these things as we go along. So the first thing is we're just going to see the basic elements of notifications. So when we go up here to click on active, and we have the possibility of snoozing notifications. Now this is going to be applied for everything here, but when we go into notification settings, which is this area here, we have the possibility of changing web and desktop, mobile, and email elements, along with Smart Reply here, which has nothing to do with notifications, but they have it here. So we have push notifications for web and desktop. We can have all messages, new threads, which applies to rooms, which we'll see in a second. Threads again to rooms, and then only mentions. So we have mentions and threads, two things that we're going to see right now. And then we have off. Same thing applies to mobile. You can do the exact same options here. All messages, new threads, threads on following direct messages, only mentions, or off. So you have those things there. And then email here, we have the possibility of receiving emails in relationship to mentions and direct messages. Now, these emails only apply to specific things. If we go to Google documentation here, we're going to see that email notifications are applied 12 hours afterwards. So if you haven't read something in 12 hours, then Google will send you an email mentioning what you have not seen if someone mentions you, or if you've received a direct message. So just keep that in mind when you're dealing with the notifications here in relationship to the emails. So it's nice to have. And down below we have the Smart Reply here that we'll see in a second. So that's pretty much all the options you have in relationship to notifications. So let's jump out of this. The configuration or settings button here actually is the exact same thing as we see here. So if you click on this guy and click on settings, you're going to see that it's going to open up the exact same thing. So again, there's a repetition, but basically notification settings and this guy here are exactly the same, so you don't need to worry about that. So let's start with DMs here. So to start off, we just look for somebody here. As you can see, we have various options, but we're just going to click on someone. So we'll just go to 3, and that will pop out the third student here. And as you can see, we have other options down here. Message and this guy, send message, are the exact same thing. They apply to the DM that we're going to do right now, so it's a bit repetitive here as well. But you also have other shortcuts here. You have the send send emails. So if you click on this guy, it's actually going to set up an email so you can send to that person directly. As you can see here, well, we don't need that, so we'll just knock it out. We go back here again, click on 3, pop this guy out, and then we have also the calendar option, which allows you to set up an event with this person already added as a guest, so that's pretty cool. And if we go back here again and click on this guy, you're going to see that we can also start a video chat with this guy immediately. So it gives you some nice shortcuts that you can use. Either way, we're going to click on him, and this will open up, and then down below we have the possibility of sending a message. Now, here, as you can see, we can't open this up and won't be able to open up until we click on and down here and add a hi or something. And then what that does is this activates this part here above, and we can see here the view members, the configuration webhooks is for programming. We can star this guy and turn off notifications. So this brings me to another point here, which are the 3 dots beside these guys. So all of these guys have 3 dots, and as you can see here, we have star, turn off notifications, or hide conversation. And for rooms, we're going to see that you can actually leave them, but the star and turn off notifications are the same for no matter what you have here. So star and turn off notifications, and then it says here very clearly mentions will still notify. So just keep that in mind that unless you turn off mentions here under notifications, you're still going to get mentions here. So basically that's what that does there. And you can do the same thing here, star and turn off. So if I star this guy, it goes up here under starred, or if I go to the 3 dots, I can unstar that. Again, if I go here to view members, I can see there's only 2. Now just keep in mind, this is a DM, but Google still treats it as if it was a group thing. So just keep in mind that even though it's called a DM, it's really treated as something different. So you get to see who you're conversing with there. You can see their emails, which is nice as well. And then outside of that, there's really nothing else special about the DMs. So let's just go down here now and see what we have in regards to possibilities. We can go here, we can upload something. So we can click on this guy and click on an image, for example, and add that. And then I can click on enter. You have to click on enter here or send message. So the only thing that you have to just keep in mind that you're not really sending something until you actually click on enter or this button down here. So click on enter there. And then in the messages you guys send, you can edit and you can delete. The editing and deleting is however long you want. So there's no time frame there. It's not like WhatsApp or Telegram where you have a certain amount of time and then you can't do anything with it. So there's unlimited amount of time to edit or delete here. And then you can send a small emoji here in relationship to each message. So that allows you to send something specific. And actually you can take mini polls this way, informal polls, and where you say, okay, well, give me a thumbs up if you like this, or don't give me something, or give me a thumbs down. So even without having like a polling bot or something specific, you can still take an informal poll here, which is pretty nice. So I can do that with any of my messages, but messages that are sent to me, for example, we go over here and we see that someone has sent a message. I can't delete or do anything except respond with an emoji here to the messages. So you can only delete and edit your own messages. Just keep that in mind. So going back here again, the second thing we can do is we can add stuff to by drive. So if we click on this guy, we can select a document here. And when it comes out, it says current and future room members will be able to comment on this file, which means people here, whether it be a DM, whether it be a group chat or a room, they're going to be able to see it and comment on it. If you want them to edit it, you're going to have to do something more, which is to open up the document and change the configuration within the document. But for right now, they can see and comment. So again, as soon as I add the document, then I can click on this guy and send it. And then it pops up there. And again, I can do the same thing as comment or delete or put an emoji. Good. Here we have video conferencing. You can use Google Meet, which is the new video conferencing platform that Google has. And you can send a link to start a meeting immediately here. And the person can open this up and start video chatting with you immediately. And again, you can edit that or delete it or whatever you want to do. Then the emojis here, you can add emojis by themselves. You don't have to put it in text. If you add an emoji by itself, it actually goes big, as you can see here. Or if you put an emoji by a text, it's going to be smaller. So I can go like this, and then it's like this. Now, just keep in mind a little drawback here of Hangouts Chat. I don't know why they do this, but they don't put spaces in between messages. So if you want a space, you have to click on this guy, edit it, and then click on Shift Enter. Enter alone is not going to work. You click on Shift Enter, update that guy, and you're going to see now that there's spaces in between. That's pretty cool. And then you can also format these guys a little bit. So if I want to put a hi, I can select that, click on Control B for bold, and what it does is it puts an asterisk by each one, and click on Enter, and that will make it bold. Same thing, if I want this italicized, I just click on Control I. It will put an underscore before and after. Click on that guy, and he gets italicized. So you have options here to somewhat format the text here if you want. And again, you can edit and delete and put an emoji beside it. If I edit it, I can click on this guy here, grab this guy, and click on B, and we're going to update him. And as you can see, it's now bold and italicized. So things like that you can do with this. Just to take advantage of this, keep in mind when you are using Hangouts Chat above, as you can see, I'm the little guy, the little icon here is in green, and it turns to red when you have messages. So it will notify you within the tab turning red to indicate that you have received messages that you have not read yet. So, and it will tell you also with the number 1 or whatever here next to that, and then it'll turn green after you receive the messages. So another thing to keep in mind is you really can't delete or destroy things here, and we're going to go into a little more detail in regards to that, and that will also affect the administrators in the organization. But here, for example, if I go next to the conversation, I have here start off and hide conversation, but hiding conversation doesn't delete it. There's no way really of deleting it. And if you go up here the same way, if I go to view members here, there's no way of deleting or hiding these things. And if I go to the person who's received them, the other person go here and say hi conversation, it can disappear, but it just comes back as soon as you click on the person again. So there really is no way of destroying conversations. So once you start a DM with someone, it's going to keep on going unless you start trying to delete message by message here. Otherwise, just by wanting to stop a conversation and trying to delete the entire thing is not going to happen here. So it's very important to keep that in mind. And the other thing I need to clarify right now is in regards to history. Now, in the old Hangouts, you could actually turn history on or off. You can do the same thing here. It's a little more complex. But as you can see right now, history is on. So if I go to the admin console now, and if I go to G Suite, for example here, go to apps, G Suite is going to so it kicked me out there for a second, but that's good because, you know, it should kick me out when I haven't used it in a while. It's good for the administrators. Anyhow, going back here. Yeah, remember we have here under apps, G Suite, we have Google Hangouts, and then we have the Hangouts chat here. Now, if I go to Hangouts chat here, and I'm going to see that a couple options pop out. We're going to see bots in a second, so we'll come back here. But we have history here. And in history, again, I'm underlining this is just for the admin, so you can skip this part if you're not an admin. But under history here, we have history is on by default, which means it's optional, and then we have history is always on. Now, you'd think that turning this on is automatically going to force that history is always retained, but that is not the case. If I go back now to G Suite, and if I go into the old Hangouts chat, and open this guy up, there's actually a configuration here that is similar. So we're going to go here to chat settings and then go down. And as you can see here, we have history is always on, and we have don't allow users to change the setting. Now, if I turn this one off and I click on save, take note, in the new Hangouts chat, I set it as such that it would always save the history. But if this one is off, it doesn't get affected. And that is because Google has a note here that says history settings and classic Hangouts. If you use both of them, then the one that dominates that option is going to be the classic and not the new. So either you have to completely turn off the classic Hangouts chat so they don't touch it anymore, or when you want to retain history, you have to turn it off and turn it on in the old one. So for example, here I turned it off. If I go back here and refresh this, you're going to see what happens. Okay, so down below, now I have the option of turning history on or off. So that basically applies that the person could have a conversation that was not retained within the history of the organization, which is not very good if you need to have a control over what's going on within the organization. So unless your organization is totally opposite, where you need to have things deleted constantly, then this is fine. But in most organizations, you want a history to find out if something went awry somewhere. So as you can see here, this is on and off, even though in the new Hangouts chat, it was applied as always on. So I have to go back here to the old Hangouts chat until this thing dies, or if you want to, you can turn it off completely and then it won't be affected. But if you have both of them on, then you have to go down here and then click on don't allow users to change the setting, then save, and then that will apply to both, to where if I go back here now, I should be able to refresh this and this guy will disappear. And as you can see, as we refreshed, There is no longer the possibility of turning the history on or off. So again, this depends completely on your organization. The admins have to decide on what you want to do. Normally for schools, the idea is to turn it off to make sure that you have the possibility of reviewing conversations in the future if something happens between students. So, but either way, at least you know how to turn that on or off until the old Google Hangouts is destroyed or taken away. Okay, so now there's something else I have to explain in relation to the admin console that's also related to the history here, which is Google Vault. The administrators that have control over the organization also have to turn on Google Vault for a Hangouts chat, and it's something that Google underlines actually fairly constantly when you start using this. So if we go to Vault here, which we have open already, and we're going to see, let's go to the original beginning here. So let's see if it's okay, so in Vault here it says action required, and it gives you a nice exclamation point here. I've already done the process, but it's in this message still going to stay here even though you have finished it, so don't worry about it. But there's two things you need to do here. You need to activate retention. So we're going to go to retention here. And when we click on retention, the first thing you want to do, if you don't have these things set up, you should actually do it for your admin console. You can keep things indefinitely, or if your business requires the total opposite, where you have to delete things afterwards, you can set the amount of days that the messages are going to be deleted after a certain amount of time. So depending on your organization, you set this up. But in general, I suppose for schools, you're going to want to leave this as indefinitely so you can go back and resurrect something, so to speak. So for example, if someone deletes something or gets eliminated accidentally, the administrator under special circumstances can go in and recover what was deleted in this case. So we want to leave this as indefinite. I'm going to click on cancel here because we want those things there. And we have down here Hangouts Chat, which is also indefinite, but I've also made sure that there's no problems there by adding two rules. So you just create the rule and then make sure you add Hangouts Chat. And there's two areas there you have to activate, which is the DMs and the rooms. So once you have those activated, then we've fulfilled the retention one. Then we have to set up the holds, and the holds are here under matters. Nothing to do with holds, but that's where they are. So we go into matters here, and we're going to pop in and create also a norm. There's nothing here at the beginning. You just click on create, and you create one for chat, which allows you to go in and make sure that they're set up. So you have a create hold, which is finally where the button comes out actually. And then you have chat here, and then Hangouts Chat, include the rooms, and then you have your holds. So you have the retention and the holds, which are all set up for this, and you should always do this at the beginning for your organization, whether you're going to delete everything after a month or you're going to keep them indefinitely. This should be done at the beginning so that you have no problems, because what can happen is if you're not aware of it, then all of a sudden it may be that you end up not finding messages after 2 years because of the fact that the thing was not set up correctly. So just make sure you do that before you do anything else. And with that, we've covered the part with the history. So let's go back to the chat here and continue on with the other options there is here. Okay, so let's look at group messages now. Let's pop in here, start a group message as we have here. Group messages, you just put numbers in. We're just going to add these two real quick, and then we're going to click on message. And as you can see here, I've already started one up. We have the smart responses here, so we can just put nothing much if we wanted to and add it there if you want. But again, you have to make sure you have messages here before you can go up here. We go up here, we can view messages, star, turn off. Let's just go to view members. And here we have the possibility of message. And as you can see here, message and nothing. So even though I started this guy, once again, once you start a conversation, whether it be a DM or a group DM, if you want to consider it as such, and there's no way of getting out of this. So just be wary and prudent when you start these things up that you're not going to delete them later on. So if we go to the other account here, oh, it's not there yet because that's actually number 3. So let's go over here, view members, add another member here. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm actually doing this wrong. Go over here. Oh, okay, that's the other thing. You can't add members afterwards. Once you start a group message, that's the end of the story. You can't go any further with it, meaning you can't add more people there. And actually, Google clarifies that in another document of theirs. So let's go to that one so you can see what it is. And it says, after starting a chat, can't add or remove anyone. So very clearly documented that once you start a group chat, you can't do anything there. And so keep that in mind, that whether it be a DM or a group DM, which is what Google is considering this as, you can't do anything. So rooms are going to be different. That's why you have to really take this into consideration when you start a conversation, what type of means you want to use, because otherwise you're going to end up having a problem that even though you want to separate yourself from the conversation, it's just not going to happen. So in this case, we'll just start another conversation as a group. So we'll add these two, and then we'll add the third one, which is what I wanted to show you guys. And then we'll message these guys. So this is all set to go. We go over here and we're going to see that there's nothing yet. Why? Because I have to add a message. Remember, you can't go in here and it's not going to come out here until you add your first message. So we're just going to click on hi again. And that the group has now been started. As you can see, it turned red here, indicating that something happened. I go into here and now I have the conversation. If I go in here and view members, then I have the possibility of messaging. And again, you have messages and here message. So you can't do anything else with this when you're in here. View members, the same thing. So what can you do is, like I mentioned before, you can hide it. So if I go over here, jump out of this guy and I go to the three dots here, it's going to say hide conversation. If I do that, it just disappears. There's nothing else. But if I go in and go into group messages, okay, scratch that. If we go back here, I hid this thing and then sent the message. And as you can see here, it makes no difference if you hide, it's just going to come back again. So if I go again, hide this guy, disappears. Go over here, click on hi, add that guy, and it's gonna reappear again. So again, underlining, I've already repeated it like various times, but things are not gonna get deleted here. So you just have to make sure that when you start a conversation, you really want that conversation to continue on. Okay, so let's look at rooms here real quick. Rooms are similar. Once you start them, they're not gonna disappear, but let's do one anyway here. So we have a create a room, and we're just gonna put event room 3. We're gonna create that room. We're gonna let that create itself, and then we have add people and bots. We're gonna work with bots at the end, so we'll just add people here. Again, we're gonna go back and start adding people. So we can have rooms here. Then we'll click on send here. That's going to send messages to everyone. And then again, to start this thing off, I just press start a conversation. So we have the conversations here, and then we go here. As you can see, when it's DM, it's red. And as you can see here, this changed to blue. So it goes from green to blue, actually, when it's a room that's being messaged and not a DM. So here we have event room 3. And then we have this, and it tells us what's going on here. So let's go here. We view members. And as you can see here, we have message and remove from room. So you can actually kick people out of rooms in a certain way. Okay, so let's go through the rigmarole of rooms here because it's a little more complex. So right now, I'm the owner of this. I started this conversation. If I go to view members here, I can see that I can't do anything with myself. But here, I can remove from room, and I can remove from room. And the funny thing is if I go to the other person here, and this one is student 3, if that student 3 goes here to view members, they can actually remove student 2 from a room. So they can't remove themselves, and they can remove me, which is very interesting. So what's interesting here is that you can actually remove other members even though you didn't start the room. So that shows how independent the room is. So the student 3 can't remove himself, but they can remove me. So let's, for example, if I go here and I go remove from room, so then it says remove Jason Jurtich. So when I go back here and I refresh this, it's going to take away that event room 3. So the event room 3 is now here, but it's not here. So if I go here and browse rooms, it's not there anymore. And so if I go here, it says create room, but it doesn't let me add this. So if I go here and I put event room, and there's no event room 3. So even though you create a room, you can still get yourself kicked out of the room, and you have to ask someone to go back into the room. So the student here 3 has to actually go back and add people and then put me in, as you can see here, and then send. And then going back here, event room comes out. So the point here is that unfortunately there's no real sense of security on how to set things up here in rooms. It's the room, as soon as it's created, it becomes completely autonomous, and anyone can get anyone out. On the other hand, if I go here and I click on leave, it says leave room, but then you can join it whenever you want. I can go back here, browse rooms, and then the event room will still come out here. I can even preview it before I go back in, and then I can click on join, or I can click directly on the plus sign here and join it again. So it's really strange, and I'm presupposing that Google's gonna have to fix this because it's probably gonna be extremely frustrating for someone who created a room. They actually be kicked out of the room. But again, right now the way this is designed is very much for people who are very convinced that they need to work together, and the thing of kicking someone out is not gonna be a problem for them. But For students, it's going to be much more complex because if a student starts a room and then they try to work with someone and one of their friends is being funny and they kick them out, it's going to be much more complex. So you just have to be very wary that rooms are not going to be very useful maybe to professors if a professor starts a room and then students go in, unless they're very mature. If a student wants to play around and kick the professor out, then the professor's not going to be able to do too much about it, and the professor will have to ask the students to be put back into the room. As well, any person can rename the room. So any student, for example, can come in here and click on 4 and rename it. And then again, when the person comes out here, it's still going to be event room 4. On top of that, you can actually name rooms the exact same way. So with that, I can actually go in here, create a room, and name it event room 4 to cause even more confusion. So there's various things here that have to be taken into consideration when you start using rooms, because you can cause a lot of confusion and a lot of problems with the openness of the platform, so to speak. So keeping that in mind, and you have to be very prudent with how you want to set this thing up within your organization and define very clear and precise rules so that people don't try to duplicate names, because otherwise it's going to be extremely difficult for someone to actually find the room they need. To make this even more interesting, when you add documents here, something else really special comes along. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to add a document like this to a room. You're going to select this guy, pop him in there, enter. And now what's funny is this document as well also gets slightly modified because, as I mentioned before, when you share something within a room or within a group DM or whatever, the sharing options get changed to view and comment. But when you're in a room, and let's open up this guy up to see exactly how it ended up. If you go to the share options here, and you click on advanced, you're going to see that it's actually creating mini group emails for these guys. So it's just keep that in mind when you're doing the rooms, that these temporary or semi-temporary groups are being created in order to share these things with the rooms that you have here. So the other thing that was changed, you can follow and unfollow, which relates to the notifications I mentioned before. But as you can see here, before there was actually a bell here, and that bell has been taken out, and now they're actually putting the word following and follow here. So they'll probably update this documentation, but for right now there's a discrepancy because this is the older way it was seen, and now we have follow and followings to turn on or off notifications in relationship to this so that you have an idea of what's going on. But you can add another thread here. These are called threads, as I mentioned before, and keep on doing this, and then so you can follow this one and unfollow this one, and that way you will only receive notifications in relation to what's happening down here. So the other thing you can do here in rooms and group DMs, which we'll see right now, is the @ So putting an @ here actually will be able to mention someone, either bots or people. So here we can mention someone, and that person will receive a specific message in relation to them. So if I go there, or if I put an @ and go to 3, then this person here will also receive something. And again, you have, as you can see, red. So the first one was mentioning there was a message in the thread which turned blue, and now it's actually turned red because I actually mentioned that person directly. So it's treated as if it was a direct DM, even though it had nothing to do with it. So down below here, it compresses the messages. We have 3 new messages. We have to click on that guy to make them appear. And as you can see, it turns red, indicating here that the person was directly mentioned. So keep that in mind. The colors are going to change here. If it's a direct DM or if it's a mention, it's going to turn red up here. And if it's just a normal thread message, then it'll just turn blue. So there's not really anything special about this. But the advantage here is that when you're mentioned, if we actually go to the search now, you have many ways of searching for things. You can search under users, you can search under mentions, which is what this is here. We have images, videos, links, docs, slides, sheets, PDFs, and any other file that's floating around. So there's a lot of ways of specifying this. So I can say from this person that has link. We have from student Chu that has a PDF. So you can reduce it down, so to speak. And we can click on this person here, and then the things from this person are going to come out directly. Or if I go to all rooms, then anything else that's floating around is going to come out here, and I'm going to see the messages from this person. So you have the possibility of going back and forth there. Or the person sent the link, which in this case there's nothing, then there's going to be nothing there. Or if I sent a Google Sheet, then I'll pops the sheet, for example. So things like that. So it's actually pretty useful in this case. Okay, so when I go over here to search for something, I put under @ this one's actually popping out. And then from there, you can actually go to the thread and see where this is coming from. So just keep in mind that if for some reason this is not working, you're going to have to refresh the page. Okay, so last thing in relationship to search to keep in mind is that there are no partial word searches, unfortunately, here. I've already sent this as a bug as well to Google. But if I click on GOO, which should actually pop out something with Google, nothing's there. If I put on Google, then I'll pop this because there's actually a word called Google. So unfortunately, unlike in Google Keep, which is pretty awesome because you can actually do partial word searches and everything pops out, here there is no partial word search. So either you put the word exactly as it is or the number or something like that. Otherwise, it will not pop out. So just keep that in mind until Google fixes that bug. Okay, so let's finish this off now with bots. So if I go in here and I have a message a bot, bots are things to do things automatically. When you're here on a reply, if I do an @ you can actually, like I mentioned before, you can add a bot to a room. So you have all these bots here. We'll just stick with the ones from Google right now, but you can explore all these. So for example, we have, there should be one with the meet. So we click on here, we have meet bot, you add this to the room, you can click on enter, it says send messages and add it to event room 4. Yes, it will be able to read a reply and add new messages. Yep, we're gonna add that guy. So basically you have the meet and it will tell you, okay, sorry, I didn't understand. And you have a few things here. You have meet finance time this afternoon, meet schedule meeting, things like that. So what this will do is we'll add events to your calendar, which is actually pretty cool. And then you can also do one with @drive, which is another one from Google. If you go in the bots here, and message a bot, and then we'll put in drive here. But you can actually go here and message directly the Google Drive bot. It says, do you want to turn on Drive notifications and Hangouts Chat? Yes. And then, yeah, it says turn off notifications, open Drive settings, and then you can go in here and look at Drive settings, etc., etc. We're just going to close this up for now because it's going to take too long. But anyhow, that also adds it there in relation to that. So yeah, there must be some bots you can directly contact and some that you can add to groups here. But if you go to here to a group DM, you can't really add a bot here. So just keep in mind that bots can be messaged directly here. You can find a bot here as we did before and message them directly, or you can add a bot to a room, but you cannot add bots to group DMs. So just keep that in mind when you're playing around with bots. So like I said before, the bots will try to make things more automatic. I'm going to make a video on how to create a bot very soon. And if you look at the lists, which I didn't let you do before, but if you see here, you have quite a few things. And almost every month, there's going to be new ones added. There was only actually like 10 at the beginning, but now there's quite a few. And you even have Zoom now here added for the ones who want to do video conferencing. Asana, as you already saw. MeisterTask is already also here. So Lucid Charts always also added one. This is the one I created, and we're going to see in another video. GitHub is also here. Giphy, you can add GIFs here to your rooms and things like that. And before I finish off, here you can actually remove the bot from here. When you go up here and you have view people, view members, you can actually remove the bot here as if you removed someone else you have removed from rooms to avoid security problems. Outside of that, if there's anything else that you guys need to know about, please leave it in the comments below. But I wanted to make sure that everyone got an idea of how this was working, especially for the administrators, so you guys can start applying it to your organizations, domains, institutions, and whatnot, and to take better advantage of it. Because in the future, bots will be the central part of everything. It's probably going to take the place of a lot of things in the future. So the bots I'm going to dedicate a lot more time to in other videos, but it's important that businesses start taking this into consideration and start applying it, integrating it, because it's going to help tremendously within business flow when you guys start using it.